The unexpected find Jake sat alone in his dimly lit room, the silence of the night broken only by the faint hum of his phone charging on the desk. He had been scrolling through social media when a strange notification caught his eye. It wasn't from any app he recognized, just a simple message with an image attached. The message read, "Is that me on your phone?" His heart skipped a beat. He hadn't seen that number before. Hesitating for only a moment, Jake tapped on the message. What he saw sent a chill down his spine. The image that filled his screen was of a woman, unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with an ethereal, almost metallic glow. Her eyes glowing a piercing blue, too intense to be human. She looked regal, powerful, and strangely familiar. Her expression was stern, yet there was something about it that pulled at Jake's mind, making him feel as if he knew her. What really unsettled him, though, was that he recognized the place in the background. It was unmistakably his apartment building, a detail he had never shared with anyone. How could this be? How did she know where he lived? His thoughts raced. There were no signs of a prank, no indication that this image had been photoshopped or faked. This was real. He zoomed in on the image, trying to decipher any hint of what was going on, but there was nothing. His phone buzzed again. Another message, this time with more urgency. "That's me, isn't it? You can see me." Jake's fingers trembled as he tried to make sense of it all. His mind was a whirl of confusion, trying to process what was happening. Could this be some kind of elaborate joke? But the details seemed too precise, too real. This wasn't something someone could fake. He glanced around his room, as if expecting someone to jump out at him. The stillness made him even more paranoid. His eyes darted back to the screen. There, staring back at him, was the woman from the image. It was as though she was speaking directly to him through his phone. Jake sat back in his chair, feeling a weight in his chest. He had to know more, but where could he even start? He opened the photo again, examining every pixel, every shadow. Something didn't add up. He couldn't explain how the picture had gotten on his phone. He had been careful about his privacy, hadn't downloaded anything suspicious or opened unknown links. His mind raced through possibilities. Maybe it was an accident, a glitch, or an unintended upload. But as he stared into the woman's intense eyes, he knew there was more to it. Her gaze was too direct, too focused. It was almost as though she was aware of him, watching him through the screen. Jake tapped the message icon. He was about to type a response when the phone suddenly flickered. The screen went black for a moment, and then a new message popped up. "I know you can hear me. Don't ignore me." He froze. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. Who was this person, and how did they know about him? How could they be sending these messages to his phone, speaking to him through the screen as if they were standing right there? The question gnawed at him. How did they get his number? Why did they want to speak to him? He typed back, his fingers moving faster than his thoughts. "Who are you?" The response was almost immediate. "I am the Queen of the Arava. You will know me soon." The message didn't make any sense. The Arava? Queen? What was this all about? Jake quickly looked up the name on his computer, trying to find any mention of it, but there was nothing. He felt his pulse quicken. This was far beyond any ordinary mystery. His phone buzzed again. This time, the screen showed a video. File. Reluctantly, he pressed play. The video opened with static, a crackling noise, and then a shaky image of the same woman. But now, she was standing in a grand throne-like room, surrounded by strange, glowing symbols. Her voice echoed in the video, soft but unmistakably clear. "You have seen me, and now you must listen. They are coming." Jake couldn't breathe. His mind raced as he tried to process what he was seeing. This was no prank. This wasn't just some random picture or a mistaken message. This was real. The video cut out abruptly, leaving Jake staring at a blank screen. He tried to rationalize everything, but nothing seemed to make sense. How could this be happening? Why him? A sense of dread settled over him. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't playing games. She was reaching out to him. He looked at his phone again, as if expecting another message. But it was silent now. The air in the room felt heavy, as if the walls themselves were closing in on him. Jake knew one thing for sure now. His life had just changed forever. There was no going back. And the woman in the image, this queen of the Arava, was only the beginning. The first contact, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His mind kept circling back to the strange encounter, to the queen's image on his phone. He tried to go about his day, hoping that it was all just some bizarre, one-time occurrence. But the nagging thought refused to leave. His phone, now in his hand, felt heavier than it had before. Every buzz, every notification made his pulse spike. It had been hours since the video ended, and still no further messages. He checked the time. The silence was unnerving. Maybe it was a prank, he thought. Again, but deep down, Jake knew it wasn't. There was something far more real about it. The queen's eyes had haunted him all day, staring at him through his phone screen, as though she were waiting for him to act, to respond. Suddenly, the screen lit up. The message appeared as quickly as the last one had, but this time, it was more direct. Why are you not answering? The message read, Do you fear me? Jake's heart raced as he read the words. Fear? He wasn't sure if it was fear, or just a deep sense of confusion and disbelief. But fear was creeping in now. This wasn't a joke. This was real, and the queen, or whatever she was, wasn't going to stop. His fingers hovered over the keyboard as his thoughts scrambled. What was he supposed to say? What could he say to an alien queen who had somehow found her image on his phone? He swallowed hard and typed, Who are you? What do you want from me? The reply came almost immediately. I am the queen of the Arava, ruler of the stars. You are not the only one who has seen me. My people are watching, but it is you who must decide what happens next. The words sent a chill through his spine. Her people? What did that even mean? Jake paced around the room, running a hand through his hair. He could feel his thoughts unraveling, and it was making him dizzy. But then the phone buzzed again. Another message from her. Do not be afraid. We are not your enemies, it read. But those who would destroy us are. Jake's breath caught. Destroy her? The queen? His confusion only deepened, but something told him this wasn't just about her. The way she spoke, it felt like there was so much more at play here, something vast and dangerous. What was going on? Why him? He took a deep breath and finally typed, What do you need me to do? For a long moment, there was no response. The seconds felt like hours. Jake glanced at the clock on his wall, 2:47 a.m. He wasn't sure when exactly the strange messages had started, but they had consumed every ounce of his attention. Sleep had long since abandoned him. Then the screen lit up once more. You will be our eyes, she said simply. You must listen. Watch the stars. Jake's stomach tightened. Watch the stars? It sounded cryptic, almost like a command, but one he didn't understand. What could he possibly do? Before he could type a response, the phone screen flickered again. The message was followed by a link, an encrypted one. Without thinking, Jake clicked it. What he saw next left him frozen. A video, but this time the queen appeared differently. She was standing in what appeared to be an ancient, regal hall dimly lit by strange, pulsating lights. The camera zoomed in on her face, her eyes locked on Jake's, as if looking directly at him. Soon the council will find me, she said, her voice much softer now, though there was a hint of urgency. "And when they do, you must be ready." Jake leaned in closer, hanging on every word. His entire being was drawn to her. She was powerful, yes, but there was something vulnerable about her too. Something he hadn't expected. "We have hidden ourselves from their sight for centuries," the Queen continued. "But the stars are no longer in our favor. They have found us. They are coming. We need you to help us." The video ended with a crackling noise, leaving Jake staring at the screen. He felt his pulse thudding in his ears, the weight of the situation finally sinking in. What could he possibly do to help? He was just a guy sitting in his apartment, staring at his phone, trying to make sense of messages from an alien queen. He was in over his head, no doubt about it. The phone buzzed again. "We will speak soon," it read. "Be ready, Jake." The weight of the words hit him like a tidal wave. Be ready. For what? And how was he supposed to prepare for something like this? Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. It came from outside his window, a low, eerie hum. Jake's heart leaped in his chest. He stood frozen, staring out at the night. The city outside was still, quiet. But that hum, it wasn't just in his mind. It was real. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the noise stopped. Jake glanced down at his phone. Another message had appeared. "Look to the sky." His heart raced. He couldn't ignore it. Something was happening. The Queen was right. He had to pay attention. He stepped toward the window, holding his breath, and gazed up at the stars. And in that moment, Jake knew that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't even begin to comprehend. Unraveling the mystery. The days after Jake's encounter with the Queen felt like they were moving in slow motion. His mind raced at all hours, replaying the events in his head. The image of the Queen, her piercing eyes locked on him through his phone, never left his thoughts. He couldn't shake the eerie feeling that she was always watching, waiting for him to act. Each message that came from her felt like a puzzle piece, and Jake couldn't rest until he had solved it. But the more he uncovered, the more questions appeared. There were no answers, only cryptic messages and strange clues. He started by going over the images again. There was something about them, something Jake had missed the first time. He zoomed in on the details of the Queen's face, trying to find a hint of where she came from, or who she really was. The photo was grainy, almost as though it had been captured through some sort of security cam. But it wasn't just the image, it was everything about it. The Queen's gaze seemed so purposeful, like she knew exactly where and when Jake would find the image. It wasn't an accident. Jake's phone buzzed again, snapping him out of his trance. He picked it up, quickly glancing at the screen. It was a message from the Queen. "Have you figured it out yet?" it read. Jake's heart skipped. He hadn't expected this, hadn't expected her to push him like this. "What do you want from me?" He typed quickly, the words tumbling out in a rush. The reply came instantly, as though she had been waiting for his response. "You have seen the image. You have seen me. You are now a part of this." A chill ran down Jake's spine. A part of this? What did that mean? "Why me?" he typed again. "What's going on? Who are you really?" Another message came almost immediately. "I am the Queen of the Areva. I have ruled for centuries, but now my empire is crumbling. You are not just some random human. You have something they want." Jake's pulse quickened. He sat back in his chair, the weight of her words sinking in. His mind was racing. What did she mean by something they want? And what did he have to do with it? The Queen's next message made his stomach twist. "Look deeper. The answers are in your history." Jake stared at the words for a moment, his mind trying to piece them together. History? What did his past have to do with any of this? He had no royal blood, no hidden secrets. He was just a guy, living an ordinary life, or at least he thought he was. He decided to go back through the messages and images, this time searching for patterns, looking for anything that might point to a deeper meaning. As he scrolled through the Queen's cryptic texts, he noticed something odd. Her phrasing seemed familiar, almost like an old story, a myth, a legend he had read once, long ago. A faint memory flickered in his mind, and he quickly grabbed his computer. He typed in a few key words, desperately searching through his old notes. His hands were shaking as he dug deeper into old history books, articles about ancient civilizations. Then it hit him something about the Arava Empire, an ancient legend about an alien queen whose descendants would walk among humans, hidden until the time was right for them to rule once more. The queen's name popped up in a long-forgotten text, buried deep within an obscure article. It described an empire of powerful aliens, one that had vanished from history after a great war. The legend said that when the time came, they would return to reclaim their place in the stars. Jake felt his breath catch in his throat. Could this be real? Was the queen really part of that ancient empire? He stared at the screen, processing the information. The pieces were starting to come together, but they were too big for him to fully understand. It seemed like the queen was trying to lead him down this path, trying to make him see the truth hidden in plain sight. But why? His phone buzzed again. "Now you know," the message said. "But it's too late to turn back. You're already involved." Jake felt a pit form in his stomach. He was in over his head. This wasn't just a simple conversation with some mysterious woman. This was something far bigger. There were forces at play that he couldn't begin to comprehend, and they were coming for him. His hands trembled as he read the next message. "They are looking for you now, and they will stop at nothing to get what you have." Jake's thoughts raced. Who were they? And what was it that he had? Was it the queen's legacy? Or something even deeper, something connected to him? He sat back, staring at the blank screen. His mind spun, trying to process everything. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't prepared to dive into a galactic struggle, but he didn't have a choice. The queen had made it clear. He was already involved. The phone buzzed again, and Jake opened it without thinking. The queen's voice, clear and stern, filled his screen once more. "You must make your choice, Jake. There is no turning back." Jake's mind raced. This was bigger than he could have ever imagined, and the deeper he dug, the more dangerous it became. The queen's empire, the mysterious forces after him, and his own connection to it all. It was a web too complex to untangle on his own. But he knew one thing for sure now. This was only the beginning. And whatever happened next, he was in this for the long haul. The alien seeker Jake couldn't stop thinking about the queen's last message. There is no turning back. It echoed in his mind, the weight of it pressing down on him. His life had already changed in ways he couldn't begin to understand. What had once seemed like a random interaction with a strange woman on his phone was now spiraling into something far more complex, far more dangerous. The silence after the queen's last message felt suffocating. Jake hadn't heard from her in hours, and that made him more anxious than anything. It wasn't the silence that bothered him. It was what the silence meant. Something was coming. He just didn't know what. Sitting in his room, Jake stared at the phone, willing it to buzz, willing it to give him something, anything to help him understand the situation. His head throbbed with the unanswered questions swirling inside. What did the queen mean by, "You have something they want"? What was so special about him? His fingers hovered over the phone screen, but he didn't dare touch it. He didn't know if he was ready for another cryptic message. The last one had shaken him. What if it was too much? What if he wasn't prepared to deal with the truth? His phone suddenly buzzed, making Jake jump. He grabbed it quickly, eyes wide. The Queen's message appeared on the screen. You have something they want, Jake. You have more power than you know. I've been keeping an eye on you. Jake's heart pounded. Power? He was just a regular guy. He had no idea what power he could possibly have. Was this another riddle? Was she trying to manipulate him? Or was there a deeper truth buried in the message? The Queen had already made it clear that his involvement was no accident. But now, he had to wonder, what was the power that had drawn her to him? He quickly typed back, What do you mean? What power do I have? The reply came almost immediately. I know you are confused, Jake, but you are a part of something much larger. Your ancestors. The message cut off abruptly, leaving Jake staring at the screen in shock. He quickly opened the message again, hoping the rest of it would appear, but it never did. The words were gone. Something inside him clenched, the familiar sense of unease crawling up his spine. The mention of his ancestors. What did she mean by that? The room seemed to close in on him as the screen went dark. Jake threw the phone on his bed, unable to focus. He had no idea what he was supposed to do with this information. His ancestors? He didn't even know what to believe anymore. His head was spinning, and the mystery of it all was driving him to the edge. A sudden knock on the door startled him. His heart jumped in his chest. It was late. No one should be visiting at this hour. Jake walked cautiously to the door, his mind racing. Was this some sort of trap? Had the Queen sent someone to find him? When he opened the door, no one was there. Confused, Jake stepped outside, looking around the dark hallway. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Something was off. There was an unmistakable sense of being watched. Then, a faint whisper, barely audible, caught his attention. Jake. He spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but there was nothing. The hallway was empty. The only sound was his own breath, heavy in the silence. The whisper came again, clearer this time, though still distant. Jake, it's time to come with us. The voice sent a jolt through him, and his pulse raced. The words felt like a command. His legs froze as panic gripped him. He couldn't tell if the voice was coming from his head or from somewhere outside his apartment. But one thing was clear. Whoever or whatever was speaking, it wasn't human. He slammed the door shut and leaned against it, his breath shallow. Was the Queen involved in this? Was she manipulating him again? He didn't know who to trust. The phone buzzed again. This time, he didn't hesitate. He grabbed it and opened the message. They are coming, Jake. They have found you. The words made his blood run cold. He ran his hands over his face, trying to collect himself. Who had found him? The enemies the Queen had warned him about. Or was it something even worse? There was no time to think. He had no idea what to do next. He just knew that he was being dragged deeper into something he didn't understand, something far bigger than he could handle alone. The phone buzzed. Once more, and Jake's stomach twisted. This time, the message was different. It wasn't from the Queen. It read, We've been watching you, Jake. It's time for you to come with us. Panic surged through him. He couldn't ignore it anymore. His life was no longer his own. The truth was out there, but he wasn't sure he was ready for it. Still, there was no going back. The message was clear. He had a choice to make, and it was too late to turn back. The sound of distant footsteps echoed in the hallway outside his door. Slowly, Jake's mind clicked into place. They were here. A twist in the plan. Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he stood frozen in his apartment, staring at the phone. In his hand, the last message sent a chill down his spine. We've been watching you, Jake. It's time for you to come with us. The words repeated in his mind, each one making his breath come faster. He had no choice now. Whatever this was, whatever was happening, he couldn't outrun it any longer. The footsteps in the hallway grew louder, echoing off the walls. Jake's pulse raced, and he quickly turned to look out the window. The city below looked peaceful, oblivious to the chaos that was unfolding just a few floors up. But up here, in his small apartment, Jake knew his life was teetering on the edge. The Queen, her empire, the mysterious forces after him, it was all too much to process. And yet, it felt like it was only the beginning. Without thinking, Jake grabbed his jacket, the weight of his decision sinking in. He needed to act whatever, coming with them, meant he had no choice. The world outside was closing in, and he couldn't afford to stand still. He walked briskly to the door, peeking through the peephole. There was no one in sight. But Jake knew that didn't mean he was safe. He had learned too much to think that silence was reassuring. The people, or whatever they were, had been following him for days now, and the Queen's warnings only made him feel more exposed. The phone buzzed again, startling him. He stepped back, eyes darting to the screen. This time, it was a message from the Queen. "They know you're trying to run. You cannot escape them, Jake. They are already here." Jake's chest tightened. His mind screamed at him to do something, anything, but his body wouldn't move. He was stuck, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. Then a soft knock on the door. Jake's heart jumped. It was subtle, but it was there. The knock sounded different, now almost too controlled, as if it wasn't coming from someone who had just arrived in a hurry. The person outside had been waiting, had been patient, watching for the perfect moment. His phone buzzed again. Another message from the Queen. "Do not let them in. It is too late for you to trust them. You need to leave now." Leave? Where was he supposed to go? He was alone, with nothing but the information from a mysterious alien queen and cryptic messages from unknown enemies. Jake glanced back at the door, his fingers trembling. The knock came again, louder this time. Before he could decide what to do, the door creaked open slightly, just enough for him to hear a voice. A calm, soothing voice. "Jake, we know you're in there. You can't hide from us forever." It was a man's voice, deep, steady. The tone was almost comforting, as if the speaker had known Jake for years. But that only made the situation worse. How could someone speak to him like that, as if they'd known him all along? Without thinking, Jake bolted from his position, grabbing his keys and running for the back exit. His mind was a whirl of panic, but he knew he had no choice. The Queen had warned him. He had to get away before they caught him, before it was too late. As Jake hurried through the hallway toward the building's rear door, he could hear more voices now. More people were moving in. He was surrounded. "Jake, ... you cannot escape." The Queen's voice echoed in his mind, but now it wasn't just a warning, it was a command. He had to act quickly. He couldn't afford to hesitate. He could feel the ground beneath him rumble slightly, a vibration that seemed to come from nowhere. It was subtle, but it was real. Something was shifting, and Jake could feel it in his bones. He reached the back exit and pulled the door open. Just as the distant sound of footsteps neared, a surge of adrenaline flooded through him as he stepped out into the cool night air. The alley was empty, but Jake knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. He had to keep moving. Jake turned left and ran, not looking back. His mind screamed with questions, but he couldn't afford to think. Where was he going? What was this all about? The night sky above seemed to shift, the stars barely visible through the thickening clouds. The Queen's words came to him again. "They are close, but you are not alone." As he ran, Jake's phone buzzed once more. This time, the message was different. The Queen was no longer speaking in cryptic phrases or offering warnings. This time, her words were clear, direct. "The ones chasing you, they are not what they seem. They wear the faces of humans, But they are not. Do not trust them. Jake's breath hitched. What did she mean? Who were these people really? And why had they come for him? His phone buzzed again, and he opened it immediately. The next message was even more alarming. They've found you. Run, Jake. Trust no one. Suddenly, Jake heard the unmistakable sound of a vehicle pulling up in the distance, tires screeching on the asphalt. He didn't dare turn around to look. His instincts told him to keep moving, to keep running until he couldn't run anymore. Jake rounded a corner, looking desperately for anywhere to hide. The alley was narrow and littered with abandoned boxes. As he passed a small warehouse, he slipped inside, hoping the darkness would shield him. His body was shaking. He leaned against the cold brick wall, trying to steady his breath. He had no plan, no idea where to go next. But one thing was clear. He was no longer just running from some strange occurrence. He was running from forces that were bigger than he could understand. And the Queen's warning echoed louder in his mind. They are closer than you think. Do not let them take you. Not without a fight. Jake swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. He had no idea how to fight this, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to let them take him without a fight. He wasn't going to give in. Into the abyss Jake's breath was heavy, each inhale sharp with panic as he crouched in the shadows of the warehouse, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The sound of distant footsteps reached his ears, and he froze, not daring to make a sound. His body was shaking from the cold, but the fear gnawing at his mind was far worse than the chill of the night air. He couldn't stay here. He knew that. The people, or whatever they were who were after him, were getting closer. The Queen's cryptic warning echoed in his mind. They are closer than you think. Jake's phone buzzed again, the sudden vibration making him jump. He quickly pulled it from his pocket, praying it was the Queen. But the message wasn't from her. It was from an unknown number. "We've found you, Jake. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." His hands trembled as he read the message. They had found him. The fear in his chest tightened. There was no escape, no hiding. What did they want? He quickly tucked the phone back into his pocket, his mind racing. The only thing he could do now was keep moving, keep running. He had to find answers. He had to find out who these people were and why they wanted him so badly. The sound of the vehicle that had been following him earlier grew louder, and Jake realized it was circling the warehouse. They were looking for him. They knew he was here, and he didn't have much time before they would break down the door and drag him out. Without another thought, he bolted from the shadows, sprinting towards the back of the warehouse. His footsteps echoed in the silence, but he didn't care. He had no choice. He had to escape. He pushed open a side door, emerging into a dark alley that was barely lit by a flickering street lamp. The city around him felt like a maze too many. Places to hide, but none that felt safe. As Jake ran, his phone buzzed again. He stopped for just a moment, glancing at the screen. The message was from the Queen. "They're not human, Jake. You need to trust me. They are part of the Order, the ones who have hunted my people for centuries. They will not stop until they have what you hold." Jake's heart skipped a beat. The Order. That name sounded vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it. What did he hold? What was it about him that made him such a target? He pushed the thoughts aside for now, forcing himself to focus on escaping. His breathing was ragged, his legs burning with exhaustion, but he couldn't stop. Not now. He didn't know how much longer he had before the people chasing him caught up. The alley ahead twisted, leading him toward a darker part of the city. The streets here were quieter, more desolate. Jake couldn't see anyone in the distance, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. His skin crawled as he glanced over his shoulder. No one was there, but the sensation wouldn't go away. It was as if something or someone was always just behind him, waiting for the right moment to strike. As he turned a corner, a flash of movement caught his eye. He froze, his instincts kicking in. His heart skipped a beat as he caught sight of a figure standing in the shadows ahead. The figure was tall, cloaked in dark clothing that blended into the night. For a moment, Jake thought he saw a glint of metal beneath the cloak. "Jake," the figure said, its voice low and calm, but full of authority. "You've been running." "Long enough." Jake's breath hitched. How did they find him so quickly? The figure stepped closer, revealing a face that was both human and not. It was almost like a mask, its features smooth and perfectly symmetrical, but there was something unnatural about it, too perfect, too cold. Its eyes were pale, glowing faintly in the darkness. "I've been waiting for this moment." The figure continued. "You've become a problem. A complication that needs to be removed." Jake's mind raced, his thoughts scattering in every direction. Who was this person? What did they want with him? Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, its movements impossibly fast. Jake didn't have time to react before a sharp pain shot through his arm, and he staggered backward. The figure had grabbed him with a force that felt unnatural, like something far beyond human strength. "You've made a mistake," the figure hissed. "The Queen's influence won't save you." Jake gritted his teeth, trying to break free from its grip, but it was too strong. Panic flooded his chest as he realized he was powerless against this being. His phone buzzed again, and in the chaos, Jake barely managed to grab it from his pocket. The screen flashed with a new message. From the Queen. "Fight, Jake. You have the power. You just need to believe it." Jake's pulse quickened. The Queen's words were like a spark in the darkness. Fight. He didn't know how he could possibly fight back, but the Queen had said he had the power. And in that moment, it felt like a lifeline. With every ounce of strength he could muster, Jake twisted in the figure's grip and shoved his knee into its side. The figure recoiled slightly, its grip loosening just enough for Jake to break free. He staggered back, his breath ragged. He glanced down at his phone again. The Queen's message was still there. "Trust me. You have what they want, and you are not powerless." The figure growled, its eyes narrowing as it stepped forward again, but Jake wasn't backing down this time. He didn't know what the Queen meant, but he couldn't afford to hesitate. The figure lunged at him again, but Jake was faster this time. He ducked beneath its outstretched hand and threw himself into a nearby alley, desperate to escape. As he ran, he could hear the figure's footsteps behind him, growing louder. But Jake wasn't going to let them catch him, not now, not when. He was starting to understand what was at stake. He didn't know what the Queen had meant about the power he had, but one thing was certain. He wasn't going down without a fight. And this time, he was ready to face whatever came next. Ask ChatGPT. The final decision Jake's lungs burned as he sprinted down the narrow alley, the sound of his pursuer's footsteps growing louder behind him. His mind raced, heart pounding. The figure, whoever or whatever it was, hadn't been human. Its strength, its speed, the way it had moved with an eerie, unnatural precision. It was like something out of a nightmare. But Jake couldn't stop. He had no choice. The Queen's warning, her message of hope, still echoed in his mind, fueling his every step. You are not powerless. Jake's legs felt like lead, but he pushed through the exhaustion, turning another corner into an even darker part of the city. The old buildings around him seemed to close in like a maze. He had to find somewhere to hide, somewhere to regroup, but the weight of the situation was closing in on him. They're coming for me, the thought repeated over and over in his head, like a mantra. But what did he really have to fight back with? His phone buzzed again, and for a fleeting moment, he thought about ignoring it. But he couldn't. He had to know what the Queen wanted him to do. He pulled it out, pausing for just a moment to catch his breath before reading her message. This is it, Jake. The choice you make now will decide everything. Do not let them take you. Fight. You are more than you think. Fight. The word lingered in his mind, and for the first time, he felt a shift inside him. He wasn't just running anymore. Something deep within him had been awakened. The Queen had called him a part of something bigger, something ancient, and as he felt the power inside him, the question wasn't just how to survive, it was about how to fight back. The figure was closer now. Jake could hear its breath, slow and deliberate, like it was savoring the hunt. His instincts screamed at him to keep running, to hide, but another part of him knew this was his moment. He had to make a stand. Jake turned sharply into an abandoned warehouse, the door creaking as he pushed it open. The place was dark, dusty, and filled with the smell of old wood and rusting metal. He stumbled into the shadows, pressing himself against the cold concrete wall, trying to steady his breathing. The footsteps outside paused for a moment. Jake's heart raced, and he strained to hear the faintest sound, anything that would tell him which direction they were coming from. But it was silent. Too silent. Then he heard the voice. You can't run forever, Jake. It was the same voice, calm and unnervingly familiar. We've been watching you. You're the one we need. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The figure had found him again. But now he didn't feel like the prey anymore. He wasn't the helpless person who had been running. Something inside him had shifted. He was ready to face whatever was coming for him. The voice continued. You don't have to do this. You don't have to fight. Join us, Jake. We'll protect you. You'll have power beyond your wildest dreams. Jake shook his head. The words were tempting. They sounded so safe, so easy. But deep down, he knew what he had to do. The Queen had been right. These people weren't human. They were dangerous, and they were after something more than just him. The footsteps grew louder, the figure closing in. Jake stepped forward, his body trembling with both fear and resolve. He had one chance, one shot. Taking a deep breath, he whispered to himself, I won't let them take me. In a flash, the figure emerged from the shadows, its glowing eyes narrowing as it locked onto him. It took a step forward, then another, its presence imposing. Jake reached into his jacket pocket, his fingers brushing against the cool metal of an object he hadn't even known was there. A small device, something the Queen had hinted at earlier. He wasn't sure how it worked, but in that moment, it felt like his only chance. The figure lunged at him with inhuman speed, but Jake reacted quickly. With a burst of energy, he pressed the button on the device. A pulse of light shot out, blinding and powerful. The figure was thrown backward, slamming into a stack of crates. With a bone-jarring crash, it let out a shriek of surprise and pain, something that sounded almost human, but was distorted, unnatural. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The device had worked. For the first time, he had fought back. The power in his hands was real. He could feel it humming through him, like a raw, untapped force. It wasn't just the device, it was him. He wasn't just some helpless human anymore. He was a part of this strange, ancient war. The figure groaned as it struggled to get up, its movements slow and uncoordinated now. Jake didn't hesitate. He advanced on the creature, stepping forward with newfound confidence, the device still glowing faintly in his hand. You should have left me alone, Jake said, his voice steady. I'm not what you think I am. The figure stared at him, its eyes narrowing in disbelief. You don't even understand. Before it could finish, Jake fired the device again, sending another pulse of energy crashing into the figure. This time, it collapsed to the ground, motionless. Jake stood there for a moment, panting, trying to absorb what had just happened. He'd done it. He'd fought back. He wasn't just running anymore. He had taken control. His phone buzzed again, and this time the Queen's voice filled the screen. "Well done, Jake. You've proven yourself. The power is yours. Now the real fight begins." Jake's heart raced. He wasn't sure what was coming next, but he knew one thing for sure. He was no longer just a pawn in a game he didn't understand. He was a player, and whatever happened next, he was ready. The Queen had said it was time for him to make his choice. And now, after everything, Jake knew he had chosen. The real battle was just beginning, and he was ready to fight for it all. The end.